Great to have everybody here today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the IVPDA for organizing this incredible symposium, the first of its kind. May there be many more. Thank you to Poster House for hosting us. Thank all of you for coming. Am I in the way? Can you see? Maybe if I go over to this side, will that be all right? It would be a great presentation if I stood in front of the screen the whole time. I have been asked here today to speak to you about Art Deco posters. This is the 100th anniversary of the 1925 Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes in Paris, from which Art Deco took its name many decades later. Just by way of a brief introduction, my name is Nicholas Lowry. I am the president of Swann Auction Galleries and head of the Swann poster department. I have been working with posters for basically my entire professional life, which is about 300 years. That's all I got. All right. How do we advance? Is it working? Am I pressing the wrong button? Yes. So we're going to begin with one of the most famous Art Deco artists, and everything I say really is subjective, not objective. Many other things, decorated the interior of the Normandy ocean liner, or at least part of the interior. And what I love about this poster, aside from the fact that it's beautiful, is the fact that it comes from 1924, which was the year before the Art Deco exposition took place. The point being that the style of art that we know as Art Deco did not begin in 1925. It just sort of became codified and more popular in 1925, and artists like Jean Dupas were doing these incredible works long before then, a year before. But there were some done in 1915, 1916, the early 1920s, and his style kept going long after the 1920s. So here in the years just before the Second World War, Dupas did this incredible poster for Bordeaux. You would think Bordeaux was perhaps best known for its wine. Dupas differs ever so slightly. And then we come to the exposition in 1925, and there were 4 official posters that were designed for this exposition. This one, perhaps the most Art Deco as we would consider it today, by Robert Bonfils. All of these posters were printed in 2 sizes, a small window size and then a larger size for the hoardings. What is very interesting about this poster, I hope you will agree with me that it is very beautiful and overtly very Art Deco in appearance, but what is really interesting about this poster is that it's only printed in 2 colors, red and black on the white paper, the white being the 3rd color, but not an ink color. And this interestingly tells us that despite all of the importance that history has put onto this exposition in 1925, the organizers really were doing it on the fly. Like a 2-color poster is basically considered cheap. So at the time, they really weren't putting their all into it. I mean, a lot of money was spent on the architecture of the fair and other things. Another poster for the exposition, and you will see that roses are a continuing motif. This is Charles Lupeau, again, one of the great artists working in Paris in the 1920s, a colleague of Cassand and Paul Colin. Here, in the theme of industrial moderne, you see factories literally belching smoke into the sky that are turning into roses. So sort of in the many decades after the Industrial Revolution, there was still a lot of importance and progress seen in these industrializations. Again, this is only a 3-color poster, showing how little thought or how little attention was given. This is also a poster for the Art Deco exposition, and again, please feel free to disagree with me. I have a very odd character trait where I tend to say things with absolute certainty that have no basis in reality. So no matter how firmly I say something, you can always disagree. I don't like this poster. I think it's unattractive. I also think it has nothing to do with Art Deco. It's also only done in 2 or 3 colors. It's hard to actually say. Émile Antoine Bourdelle was an academic artist of the period. He was very well known in Paris, so the organizers must have thought his name would add some luster to the advertising effect of the show. So for people who collect anything to have to do with Art Deco, this is an important document, albeit not one that is particularly attractive. I think this is the kind of image that most people would associate with Art Deco design. Maurice Lowry was an illustrator, a fashion illustrator. He did a lot of work for the fashion magazines. And this advertising the French seaside resort of Trouville is this sort of wonderful boardwalk scene where you have beautiful young women in their elaborate robes, which I think really bespeaks his career as a fashion illustrator. You have couples walking dogs, there are older couples, there are students you see in their sort of school uniforms, a real sort of cross-section of a very fashionable life. And the idea was, oh, look at all these fabulous, fancy people who are so up to date on all the trends who come to Trouville, you should come as well. I'm probably going to use the word most famous a lot. In the spectrum of very famous French Art Deco artists, a very prominent place should go to Roger Broders, who really was one of the more well-known and renowned, and this is one of his most spectacular pieces. Again, you see fashion at the forefront. Broders really was more known for his landscape, so not that many of his posters feature people, and this one really is sort of like a laconic, beautiful beachside view. And I've always loved about Broders posters, for all of his seaside images, and there are quite a few, he was very much obsessed with the curve of the bay. Keep that in mind. Whenever you see his posters, you will see he always does the curve. I think it's magnificent. Michel Bouchot, a less well-known artist, but a great illustrator all the same. This is a highly stylized, delightful Art Deco image. I'm sorry, I have the clicker, that's why it's not going. Highly stylized Art Deco image. You can see the waves just implied by the three lines, the woman's hair, there's the waves in the pool, the stripes on their bathing suits. Again, it sort of combines fashion, it combines travel, it combines luxury. And a lot of people think that Art Deco was a purely European or French tradition or practice. It wasn't. It existed in America too. The first time I came across these posters, I was stunned because honestly, I didn't believe that American artists in the 1930s could do such elegant work. William Welsh did this for the Pullman Rail Company. It's from a series of, I believe, it's either 4 or 6 different images of women involved in different activities, here sort of diving for beautiful conch shells. And again, if you can see the pattern of the seaside, of the ocean floor, and the algae and the bubbles that are going up behind it, the whole thing is like a masterful, masterful design. As is this one from Italy, really one of the great posters. Have you had this on display here for a show ever? Shame. As Kirill was saying earlier, one of the most attractive things about collecting posters is that you can buy museum quality work at less than enormous prices. This is an Italian poster by Franz Lenhardt, advertising rolling paper. And again, I'll come back to this a few times during this presentation. I am so enamored by the fact that such a high art form as Art Deco could have been used to market such a mundane, even lowly product like rolling paper. And this really is so incredibly elegant. The woman is sort of emerging from the background. There are no outlines at all. It's simply the green against the black and the white of the cigarette with that trace smoke rising. Just a great, great image. Another wonderful Italian poster, this by Umberto di Lazzaro, from the early days of Italian aviation. And one of the very sweet things about this is you sort of see the people in the window. If you can remember maybe when you were younger and you took a plane for the first time, how you were always looking out the window. This was not just people who were flying when they were young. This was the first time people were in the air and they were pressed to the window. This is incredible. It's also very clever how he has incorporated the colors of the Italian flag into the image. but a really great image for that. Charles Lupeau, we saw his poster earlier for the Art Deco exposition. This one, again, a few years earlier, 1920, for a small, no longer extant brand of Swiss automobiles. This is a really fabulous, complex, sophisticated image, and yet it very simply expresses the message it's trying to get. Here's a woman driving up a hill. The wind is blowing her hair. You don't even see the car. All you do is you feel the power that this vehicle exudes. And Lupeau's style is very appropriate for this kind of a message, because if you look, his typography and even the image, which is done with an airbrush, is all a little bit blurry, and that's the vibration of the car, which is great. And I don't at all want this to be like a marketing talk, but as Kirill mentioned, the most expensive London Underground poster before, this is one of the most expensive Art Deco posters. When it comes up for auction, which is almost never, it tends to sell in the $120,000 range. I wouldn't pay that, but people do. This is another extraordinary and scarce Art Deco poster for the Pierce Arrow automobile, designed and printed by a small Belgian car dealership in 1929. If you take a really close look, it looks, Pierce Arrow, like an arrow, but if you look closely, the bow is a leather-covered steering wheel. I mean, this was a very clever design, and it implies just how fancy the car was. And what you can't see from the picture is that all of the silver was metallic ink. So this, as opposed to the Art Deco exposition posters, which were printed on the cheap, this one was really printed at a very, very high level, and the design is absolutely exquisite. Then we have this car poster by Paul Colin, another one of the French greats. Again, you don't really see the details of the car so much, you just get the feeling of the car whizzing down a country road where everything, even the scenery, is a blur. It's a fantastic, fantastic design. Again, in the world of hyperbole, this next image may in fact be one of the most famous and one of the most expensive Art Deco posters by one of the great artists, A.M. Cassand. This poster was for a newspaper. And if you just take, it's great to look at, but if you dissect it just a little bit, there are telegraph poles, which again were, not new, but fairly modern in the 1920s. And the telegraph poles, all of the wires are leading basically into this character's ear. He is being force-fed news, and in turn, he is, I believe the character is a personification of the newspaper itself. So all of the information is being funneled into the newspaper, and like a town crier, the newspaper is spreading that information to everybody else. And the way that the telegraph lines go in, it draws our attention in. So it's a great dynamic design, exceptionally rare, exceptionally beautiful, and just also a great message. This may be one of the most famous posters from the Art Deco machine age era. I've seen it on t-shirts, coffee mugs, mouse pads, one of the great railway posters. And you can see that the artist, the same as the previous poster, Cassand, really had this thing for telegraph lines that disappear into the distance. So here, the train tracks, the perspective of the train are all fading to the vanishing point down there, which is the direction the train is going in. It was a unique trackside view of the train. So it really is like you're standing there at the track watching it go by, filled with energy, and also incredibly creative typographically, as Cassand moved the majority of the text basically to the border of the poster, leaving the entire image field for his incredible design. Same artist, same great image. Again, I think people who have never seen a poster before, wouldn't know a vintage poster from a garbage can, would recognize this image. One of the all-time great ocean liner images. So much to be said about this. but to me, one of the most glorious graphic aspects of this poster are this flock of seagulls right there, this tiny little, almost imperceptible flock of birds, which just help puts the entire majesty and enormity of the ship into perspective. It's also just incredible. Like, look at this, it's like the tiniest little wake. This ship is so smooth. Not entirely true, but this ship was depicted as being so smooth that it was an effortless flight, an effortless cruise across the ocean. Clearly, I did not include the artist's name and date on this. My apologies. This is a Czech artist named Willem Rotter, R-O-T-T-E-R. This poster is from the mid to late 1930s. It is the Czech answer to Casson's Nord Express. This was one of the most modernist trains running in Czechoslovakia between Bratislava and Prague. Bratislava being the capital of the Slovak part of the country and Prague being the capital of the Czech part. One of the most extraordinary images. Definitely he gave a nod to Casson. He has the telegraph lines in the background. But this one is just a great image by a fairly unknown artist, but one that certainly can hold its own with the rest of European designers. Carol, you showed this poster earlier for the Night Scotsman. Leo Marfour, a Belgian artist working for British Rail. I mean, it's Art Deco, it's Cubist, it's almost futurist with the flat shapes, and it's static and yet it's filled with movement. I don't know if I've ever actually seen this poster for sale in my 30 some odd years in the business, maybe once or twice. It's incredibly rare, it's incredibly beautiful. And it's also fascinating to see how Belgian artists were working in England and how the Art Deco style really existed all across Europe, as it did here in this just wonderful, wonderful tourist poster for Bilbao. Again, just dynamic, almost futurist in its design. Even though you can't make out any details, what is clear is this is an elegant and stylish resort, which is exactly the message that the PNT, the Spanish train company, wanted to convey. This is a French poster. Something about this poster is different from all the other posters that we've looked at so far. And rather than make you guess, I'll just tell you, this was for an event that was only for a single night. Right? This was not a tourist poster that was meant to last for months and months. This was a poster that was printed for this one event on the 8th of December at the Folies Bergère. Maurice Picot, the artist, is most famous for the exterior design of the Folies Bergère. So he designed the building, and then he designed this poster. And I think he did a real incredible job. The profiles of the couples, again, in a sort of very Picasso-like way. You don't exactly see what's happening, but you know exactly what's happening, and very elegant. And then this, one of maybe the most sensational posters of the 1920s of the what they called the Black Craze in Paris, where black performers were not given the freedom or the opportunity to perform as much in America, and many of them went to Paris, where people like Josephine Baker became international sensations, something that would not have been afforded to them had they stayed in the States. And again, this is for a one-night event, and yet for something that was printed quickly for a one-night event, it has resonated down over the last almost 100 years. Great, great piece of Josephine Baker performing. I mean, the movement, again, they are dancing so fast, and I guess I take this very personally, they're dancing so fast the plaid is coming off their clothes, right? It's like you can't even follow. So that's how movement is represented, which I think is very wonderfully representative of Art Nouveau, Art Deco in general. And Josephine Baker really was the darling of a lot of poster designers, including Zig, Louis Gaudin. One of the wonderful things about this poster, again, it exists in two different sizes. One is about my height, So you can imagine if you were walking down the streets of Paris and you saw that, how eye-catching and exceptional it will be. The other one is more sort of window size. But again, here she is with a very Art Deco boa and this wonderful subservient cheetah with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Back to Paul Colin again. This one you did have on exhibition here. Once again, this incredibly wonderful and sophisticated art form being used to advertise something rather mundane, in this case, an optician. I mean, you just cannot imagine your eye doctor now using this kind of advertising. Just extraordinary. And when this poster was up on display here at Poster House, in one of the tours that Angelina was giving, and those of you who have not been to one of her tours here, you should definitely make it a point to come. She gives good tour. But we realized that when this poster was up, and I was looking at it, and we mentioned before how Charles Lupeau used vibration on his image to sort of present the car's engine, a pulsating car's engine, and how Paul Colin also in his other poster for Peugeot used that sort of vibrations to indicate the fast trees moving. My theory on this poster, and it's such a good theory because nobody can refute it. It is an irrefutable theory. It's just a theory, but it's an irrefutable theory. An irrefutable possibility is that when you look at the lettering for Leroy, which was the name of the optician, the letters are vibrating. The letters are a little bit blurry. And it occurs to me what a genius idea that Paul Colin had, where you look at this poster, where all you see are the man's eyes, and his whole world is about to become clearer as he puts on his glasses, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, the letters are blurry. Maybe I need glasses. I do think there's something to that. My favorite example of the highest form of design, Art Deco, being used to advertise the most mundane thing ever, and you can argue fairly that opticians are not necessarily mundane. Yo-yos are mundane. And here, Raymond Gide personifies 3 yo-yos, anthropomorphizes 3 yo-yos for this absolutely exquisite fluid ad promoting Duncan yo-yos. Who knew Duncan yo-yos even existed in the 1930s? And who knew they would have been so progressive as to, hire an artist who could use such an incredible style. Their heads are yo-yos, they're playing with yo-yos. The whole thing is just fantastic. One of absolutely my favorite posters, and just a great representation of how the art form was ubiquitous and how it was used from everything to sell very expensive cars to little plastic toys for kids. This is another poster by William Welsh, very poorly placed here, not with the other one. But we're just going to end now with a couple of American posters, because like I said, I was very, very pleased to discover over the years the number of great Art Deco American images. So this is another one for the Pullman Company of women doing various activities along the Pullman rail lines. Here, this woman is sketching, and look at the stylized birds across the top. It's absolutely extraordinary, and even the stylized sort of landscape behind her is also simply fantastic. Anybody here from Cleveland? Wow. Wasn't expecting that. Welcome. So Cleveland had this extraordinary club called the Cocoon Club. And in the 1920s and 1930s, the Cocoon Club, which was an artist club, every year had their ball. And every year for their ball, they used, I guess they didn't hire, because they used members of the club to create posters, which you can find with some regularity if you're lucky. The images are extraordinary. Again, maybe a blend between Futurism and Cubism and Art Deco. Not just a poster, these were also the invitations to the event. So you are invited, Mr. Edgar Brill, and these were folded and mailed to people to come. And each one is like this little unexpected American Art Deco gem, and really a wonder and a pleasure to find them and sort of again, posters are not just fun to look at, they're an intellectual pursuit that open windows into different parts of history. And I would never have known about the Cocoon Club, I would never have known about the vibrant artistic community in Cleveland except for these posters. So really fantastic. And I want to end with this poster, which is a very late era American Art Deco poster for the 1939 World's Fair in San Francisco. Pictured is the Incan-inspired Tower of the Sun. There's the Golden Gate Bridge, the San Francisco Bay Bridge. And this was an island that was basically built to accommodate the World's Fair. And again, I think this poster, which was designed by an architectural firm, really captures all of the important attributes, really ticks all the boxes and rings all the bells and blows all the whistles of a classic Art Deco design. And again, it's very, very wonderful, for me anyway, to think that this Art Deco style was universal, that it existed as much, if not as much, but it existed as well in America as it did in Europe. And I will end there. I thank you all very much for your attention. Should you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I would also be even happier not to answer. Okay, go ahead.
So what would you say is sort of the period of the Art Deco poster, from when to when? How would you frame that?
Well, I would say it's less about what the period of the Art Deco poster is. And Angelina and I have argued this at great length, the Art Deco era itself. I mean, like I said, the imagery began in the years right before the First World War, 1916, 1915. We say that they've gone up as high as 1939. But I would say basically the interwar years as a very loose benchmark. But you will find images from the 1940s that have great Art Deco stylization. And you'll find images probably from around 1910, 1912 that also have a really distinct Art Deco feel, and whether or not they are from the Art Deco era or not is debatable, but we're really looking at these images and the stylistic way in which they catch our attention, hold our attention, and appeal to whatever in us, whatever inside us is attracted to these kind of designs. Yes?
How did Art Deco fall out of favor, and what were people saying about it at the time?
So I spoke to a lot of people back then. No, just kidding. I think it fell out of favor with the Second World War. Just like Art Nouveau fell out of favor with the First World War. Art Nouveau was this beautiful, elegant, swirly, natural, graceful art form, and then there were the trenches of World War I where people were slaughtered by the thousands, and all of a sudden the world didn't seem as pretty anymore, and Art Nouveau fell out of favor. And I think similarly, Art Deco was really considered a progressive, new, forward-thinking art. And I think everybody had to recalibrate what they were thinking in the wake of the Second World War. So very broadly speaking, and that's why I say the interwar period is that period. I think it was the Second World War that changed everybody's focus. And then, there's not, outside of maybe mid-century modernism, which was a bunch of years later, can you think of any distinct art styles that came in the era following the Second World War? No. You can. No time, what is it? That's fair. Yeah, I'm only talking about absolutely abstract expressionism for sure. I've never seen an abstract. Have you seen an abstract expressionist poster? I'm sure they exist. You had a question, I think.
Could you imagine for us how a poster, such as Josephine Baker in that February One Night event, how that poster, perhaps printed in limited quantities, still exists? And maybe even when did it enter the marketplace?
What a great question. Josephine Baker was so famous, Paul Colan was so famous that I'm sure more of those posters were printed than were used. And I say I'm sure, like I said, I can say like I'm really sure, I have no idea, but I imagine, and you asked me to imagine, so let me imagine that these two famous people coming together printed more posters than were actually needed. I don't know when exactly they would have become collectible, but the great thing about posters is, and Carol alluded to this a little bit earlier, posters are an unexpected art form. They were never done as art necessarily, they were done as commerce, they were printed for commercial reasons, One of the most frequently asked questions that I'm ever asked is how many were printed, right? So if Picasso did a lithograph, he would print 50 and he'd number each one, and maybe there were some artist proofs, but we basically knew there were 50 or there were 100 of these lithographs. Posters were commercial and the numbers were never counted, so we don't know. But it's amazing that people kept them. You know, if you collect stamps, you can put 10,000 stamps into 3 books and have them on your shelf, and you can look at them wherever you want. If you have 20 posters, where are you going to put them? And this is hard. So for somebody to have kept them, they must have loved it to begin with. They admired it. Sometimes they got it for free. They may have peeled them off the walls. They may have bribed a bill poster to take some. But they knew that they were beautiful enough and must have felt that they were important enough to keep. And that's how they survived. They survived out of the unexpected love and passion of the people who saw them and appreciated them.
I'm curious, what's the poster that you've seen a photograph of that you've never actually seen?
Well, so Kirill showed that piece earlier of the London Underground, which was absolutely amazing. I'd never seen that before. Didn't realize that it hadn't been a poster, so I'm not sure that's the exact question you're answering. I didn't know that existed. You're basically saying, what's my white whale?
Yes.
I have to think about that. What I do know, that one of the things that I love so much about being in this business, and I've been in the business for a long time, is that still now, today, I am seeing images that I've never seen before. And that's great. It's a never-ending historical search. One of the posters I have seen in real life, but it was on my list. There's a very large American billboard for, is it Ford by Cassand, which has a big I and a big V. And just randomly, I was at an Art Deco show at the St. Louis Art Museum, and they happened to have that poster up, which they borrowed from the MoMA, which I believe may be the only copy in the world. But for years, that was a poster I just only knew from photographs and was super delighted to see it. Mr. Weinbaum.
Yes, you mentioned that you were in the St. Louis Museum. I think it's important to recognize that museums have played a significant role in developing an audience for vintage posters. In roughly 1970, Rice University produced an exquisite catalog of Art Nouveau graphics, furniture, metalwork, glassware, etc. It was the beginning of a new age of interest in Art Nouveau. And I think it's unfortunate, I don't know, are there any museum curators that are in the audience today?
Well, Angelina's here.
Other than Angelina, of course, I'm talking about others. It seems to me that promoting the poster, whether it's the Victoria and Albert Museum, or whether it's MoMA, or whether it's a whole host of other museums, we're very fortunate that they are repositories to a large extent of vintage posters of different periods.
Well, I just think it's important. I think you're right. I mean, you're both complimenting the museums on spreading the gospel and putting them down for not spreading it enough. So we have to find a happy balance. The thing about this exhibition in St. Louis that I thought was so wonderful, it was cars, it was fashion, it was furniture, it was jewelry, and then they had posters to match each one. So I do think that anybody who is studying history and trying to put on a balanced exhibition about moments in time, posters can certainly fit in.
Just one last thought. MoMA, a number of years ago, had a design section to the museum. They changed their perspective and decided that contextually, posters should be focused on with furniture, with objects, etc. And it speaks to exactly what you saw in St. Louis.
Yep, and I think it's great, and I think it's going to be happening more and more. Listen, institutions like Poster House and organizations like the IVPDA are doing an incredible job, if not spreading the gospel, then keeping the gospel out there. And you see posters all the time in movies and on television shows where they're trying to recreate a historical era. Sometimes they get them wrong, which we enjoy very much. But the point is, but they're out there, and the more work that we do, I think the better, the more everybody else will begin to understand and appreciate it. At least that's my hope. Thank you guys, everybody. Is it lunchtime now? I think we're going to take a brief break for lunch, and then we're going to come right back here and continue with today's symposium. Thank you.